We're talking DAOs today, and specifically the voting, because I know voting is like a huge part of this model, right? But there's questions. So I know that a DAO, it's supposed to be controlled through democratic votes. So how does that work at its core? Pardon the pun.
Yeah, working at Core. That was one of the reasons we chose the name. So how does voting work? So generally, DAOs have been implemented in. I'm struggling for the word, but a lot of blockchain dApps and types of entities that have tokens, or I guess like tokenized businesses. So what happens is the community, people who are part of the community own a portion of tokens, and you can imagine like if you have one token, that's one vote. And so generally you get a vote for each token you have. The more you have, the more voting power you have. And communities, how it generally works is instead of like a management team in an office, anyone in the community can put up a proposal for a vote. So the example is, hey, our protocol is earning this much revenue a day or a week or a month. This is how we're going to actually use the revenue. I propose we use the revenue for X. And then everyone on the community would then vote on that. And once the vote's completed, they would, the entity would update the code or put that implementation in place.
So I have just so many questions, right? Especially with this model, which I'm pretty sure I keep hearing this over and over again. I'm sure there's differences with every DAO, right? But with this general model, where the more essentially tokens you own, the more power you have, it just seems to me like if you're doing that, then can't that be corrupted?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, again, like full disclosure, it can, and I think it comes down to how you've set up the governance. However, it's like, you can own let's say 30% of the voting power or something, right? Mm-hmm. So generally you can influence a variety of decisions depending on what type of approval is needed to get something done.
Right, but what if you have 51%?
Let's say 51% too, right? Right. I think the incentives are, ideally like the incentives should be as such that you are, voting because you to get that 51%, you own 51% of the tokens. So you should be doing things that are in your best interest. So generally you should be aligned to do the best things for the DAO because you have the biggest interest and you should have aligned interest with the rest of the community. But obviously there are times where maybe that much power that's centralized is not a good thing. So I know that different voting models and rules are being set up. And again, it's important to note, like I said earlier, that I think this is highly experimental and we're still learning a lot on how to properly run these new kind of like cutting edge entities.
Yeah, look, and I'm gonna challenge you, not to be a mean person, but just because I know that you're a good person. But these are questions people are asking, right? And people want to understand these are new structures. There's a lot of money at stake, and I think post FTX, nobody trusts crypto, which is bleeding into Web3, blockchain, everything. In a way, anybody doing anything on the blockchain is guilty because of Sam Bankman-Fried, right? So it just seems to me that if there's this, let's call it a loophole, where someone like you is going to use your vote to, I don't know, do what's best for the DAO, but we know the Sam Bankman-Frieds out there, maybe they're going to like take these majority ownership stakes in DAOs, so who knows what the hell they're doing. I mean, it seems a little bit scary, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I guess the example would be, I'm going to allocate all the money to this one wallet address. So I think certain, certain things need to be put in place there. Again, they're kind of like iterating on these models. When it comes to FTX, that's obviously a big story. I think it's a great example of like the opposite of a DAO. That's like, one person in that entity had so much power and was clearly influenced by greed that it caused them to do terrible things that ruined a lot of people's lives. So in a lot of ways, the DAO is meant to prevent that, right? Like one person should not have that much power.
But
they're not making all the decisions.
What if they own 80% of the tokens?
I think that
Right.
that could happen, but it's probably with these very fringe small DAOs. Like for
Right. Okay.
example, at
Okay.
Core DAO, we're dropping 8 million addresses.